The qualities that people look to in their leaders today, what they have expected from them now, are completely different than the qualities they were prepared to provide from business school. I mean, people learn a lot of management skills, they know how to run teams, they know how to manage a P&L, they know how to cut costs to address the bottom line issues, but people are looking in almost an existential way for a sense of place, for a sense of security, for a very internal need to know I'm okay, because the world is crazy, it's changing all the time, the pace of change, I'm using multiple technologies all the time. It can create a sense of, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm standing on. And I think in a very unexpected way, CEOs and corporate leaders are now actually being expected to give that sense of place to the people who work with them.
From all the CEOs and senior leaders that you work with, what do you characterize as the ideal leader?
This is an interesting question. I think many people tend to focus on the technical aspects of leading, although those are things that people can master earlier in their career. For a senior leader, a hunger for mastery, a hunger for understanding the depths of who they are and how they can bring the best of who they are into the organizations that they lead.
There are a lot of geopolitical issues, globalization, technological changes that make organizations have to make radical changes. So from all these years that you have followed CEOs and senior leaders, how challenging is that for them, and what has changed?
When I began in my career, people weren't looking to me to make sure that they felt okay in the world. And I think particularly now, we're at an all-time low of trust in media, in government to get things done, and that's across the world, in Europe here as well as in America. And so what I see more and more are business leaders being asked to take a stand for something, and almost as a collective of CEOs. I think many people, maybe all people who find themselves in CEO roles today, never had a chance to prepare for that. I mean, I think it's night and day when you see leaders who are coming from a sense of purpose. It changes the level of employee engagement from people feeling like, well, I know what I'm intended to do today, to I know why it matters. You know, the way to mobilize people, to galvanize people, for them to keep going, to, you know, to conquer a really difficult problem, to hang in there. I mean, for example, engineers, scientists, people in labs, often, you know, they're trying to solve the same problem for years. People doing research in pharmaceutical companies and medical companies, and they might feel, we've been working on this for 5 years, and we can't find the result. So if it's just a task, then why do you keep doing it? You would give up. But if you see this is our mission, we're going to save lives, we're going to solve problems, you know, this data will impact poverty, and I have a purpose that keeps me going, and I feel like if this takes 20 years, if I have my eye on a purpose and it's a compass that inspires me, I'm going to solve problems, I'm going to find results. Resilience comes from purpose. High-performing, effective people can also be sort of flatline, like they're going through life successfully, but kind of automatically. There's not a lot of vitality, and refinding the thing that lights your fire, that gives you the sense of aliveness, that inspires people. A lot of people who have become burned out and exhausted or carry incredible amounts of responsibility have disconnected from the things that give them joy. So paradoxically, some of our leadership development is actually returning people to the things that they used to do and that they used to know. The way that I think about leadership development at the senior-most level is as a rite of passage. You know, in every society, in every culture over time, there have been youth who have gone through some kind of rite of passage, whether it's a vision quest or a bar mitzvah, that there's a way that you go through an experience that tests you. In the extreme, some of these were rituals that face death, and you come through an experience that transforms you into the most mature version of yourself. And we have completely lost in our society these rituals, initiations, transformations that are safe, and you know, we're not sending people off to face death, but we are saying face your fears. We are saying there's got to be some process of maturation that takes you from whatever level you're operating at, and again, conceiving of yourself in your role with your company, and lifts you up to your heroic nature. That says, you know, you have a quest, and until you figure out what it is, you're just not operating, you know, at the grandeur, the nobility of leadership. And that's where we think greatness comes from. Well, self-awareness sometimes makes me laugh, I have to say, because every organization in the world now evaluates its leaders based on self-awareness, yet they have no definition for the self, and they have no definition for awareness. So they are measuring people on their self-awareness without telling anyone what it is. Great leaders manage themselves first. So when people think about that, they think of time management or stress management or sort of dealing with the external world. How do I balance my work and my family? Winning from within is really asking the question, how do you manage yourself? Which means the thoughts you have, the impulses you have, the emotional life, the inner world of a leader. There's a straight line from that to the actions that people take and the consequences that they produce. So when people don't like their results, they have a tendency to look at everyone around them, not noticing, actually, those results came from my actions, and my actions came from my mindset. And the agility and the willingness to say, my mindset, which has been so helpful to getting me to this senior role, now that I am at the helm, I actually need to unpack it and create it anew. The agility and the willingness to be able to do that takes a lot of strength and is a road to greatness. I started out in life teaching negotiation at Harvard Law School, and what I found in 20 years of teaching and researching with senior executives is actually the most difficult negotiations and the most important negotiations to your results, to your relationships, to the quality of your life, are actually the negotiations that you have with yourself. What I've defined in Winning from Within is a roadmap of the self. Because people talk a lot about self-awareness. Right. They don't really explain what is the self and what is awareness. So I've defined the self as essentially an inner top team with a board of directors. So an actual top team would have a CEO, a CFO, a COO, and a CHRO. So I talk about the inner top team in you, but it is important to separate you as a human being from you as a corporate executive or CEO. So I've taken one step away from corporate titles and gone for aspects of self that match the roles, but they're more universal. So the CEO is the dreamer, the CFO is the thinker, the CHRO is the lover, and the COO is the warrior. People ask me all the time, everywhere I go, every day, you know, can people really change? And I always want to say, yes, they can. Yes, they can. At every age, in whatever stage of life you are. I mean, the good news is, although historically, social scientists, people have been saying for a long time that you can change and you can grow. The blessing we have now is we have neuroscience. And we have brain researchers telling us about neuroplasticity, telling us that even at a neurochemical level, the brain grows, the brain expands over time throughout all the decades of your life. So even if you want to stick to a scientific, research-based answer, yes, you're growing as a human being. Carl Jung used to say, he's a depth psychologist, also does some work related to Joseph Campbell. He used to say every human being is born into a mansion. And over the course of our lives, we think, you know what? I don't really like that part of myself. I'm just going to put it in this room and lock the door. And then we have another experience and we think, that didn't work that well. And we just put something behind a room, we lock the door. And by the time we come to midlife or adulthood, we think, wow, I'm living in a studio apartment. There's not a whole lot of space here. I'm just living around all these locked rooms. And we think, wow, wouldn't it be cooler to like live in a mansion? Because that's who you are. So the process of watching people start carefully and, gently and guided, start opening these doors and thinking, oh my God, that was me. I forgot all about it, and to literally before your eyes watch people integrate and discover parts of themselves that are their power as a leader, that will get better performance, that will get better results, that will enable them to meet the real challenges of our times. It's breathtaking to see that. I mean, I've seen it thousands of times, and I can say with full integrity, it never, ever gets boring.